Hi, my name is Pasha. This year I went on an amazing trip to the UK and France with my school, Ballina Secondary, and we went to learn all about World War I and to participate in the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge. We went to many historical sites and some recreational sites and got to learn all about each one of them. And now I want to briefly summarize it all for you. Our first day in London was pretty good. We got to walk around, explore everything, and take some photos.
I got a piano.
Terrifying.
Yeah, this is cool. Let's all go together.
It's like mist.
Whoa.
Doesn't matter. You can't
It's
see
weird with
anything.
the pulsating lights.
Bye.
Guys, no! Running out into the snow. I don't want to go alone.
No, you have to go this way to get out.
In the night, we went up to the garden, which is 115 meters tall in the air, and got to watch the sunset from all the way up there. The next day, we went to Madame Tussauds. Marie Tussaud made her first black sculpture in 1777. And in 1835, Marie settled down in Baker Street, London.
Oh no, Miss Miss.
Oh, you want him in? Okay, I was pulling up. His brother in.
We then went to the British Museum, which is dedicated to human history, art, and culture. It has 8 million works there and was established in 1753. We also visited Abbey Road Crossing, that is famous for the Beatles' cover photo on their album, Abbey Road. At the end of the day, we went to the famous London Eye, which is 135 meters tall, 120 meters in diameter, and each of the 32 capsules can hold up to 25 people. On the fourth day, we went on a bus tour to Buckingham Palace. It's the residence and administrative headquarters of the reigning monarch. Originally built for the Duke of Buckingham in 1703, it was enlarged in the 19th century by John Nash and Edward Bloor. After that, we went to the Churchill War Rooms Museum that housed a British government command center. The map room has stayed exactly the same after they stopped using it in 1945. Many letters were found that Churchill exchanged with his wife, Clementine. Winston Churchill became Britain's Prime Minister in 1940. He attacked rarely with weapons, but used his words to his advantage instead. He was part of the Grande Alliance, or the Big Alliance, or the Big Three, which also consisted of Churchill, Roosevelt, who was president of the US at the time, and Stalin. We started the fifth day with Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, which was originally built in 1599, was destroyed in a fire in 1613, rebuilt in 1614, and demolished in 1644. The one being rebuilt now only accommodates 1,400 people, unlike the 3,000 spectators that could fit in the original. We then visited the HMS Belfast, which was originally a light cruiser built for the Royal Knight. She was launched in 1938, and the requirements were a 9,000-ton cruiser capable of 32 knots and mounting 12 6-inch guns. It played a key role in the Arctic convoys, the Battle of North Cape, and D-Day. On the last day, we started at the Tower of London that was founded in 1066 as the Norman conquest of England. The White Tower that gave it its name was built by William the Conqueror in 1078. The whole castle was used as a prison in 1100 until 1952. Many people were tortured and killed in those walls. We then went to the Tower Bridge that crosses the Thames River. They started its construction in 1866 and it ended in 1894. For World War II, they added another engine just for precautions. When there's a will is a way is a pun on the family name painted on the stern of the famous Cutty Sark. It was in use from 1869 to 1895. It was one of the fastest tea clippers to be built, and the last. Its max speed was 17.5 knots and was ordered by John Willis, who regularly bought tea from China. We then took a boat tour to the Royal Observatory of Greenwich that took a major role in astronomy and navigation. And it's also situated on the Meridian Line. After having an amazing time in London, we then left to go to Arras. To visit the market first, Le Beffroi d'Arras, and the tunnels underground. On April 9th, we went to the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Here's a brief history lesson for you. Canada was still a newer country at this time, not ready to enter a war of this scale, and to be that victorious was very surprising. It started at 5:30 a.m. April 9th, 1917.
Highnesses will now place handcrafted copies.
It's an occasion where all 4 Canadian corps fought together in unison. It was a success because of all the thorough planning and preparation. More than 10,000 were killed and wounded. With the Germans on the hill being able to see every movement, this was not so easy. The ridge was held for 2 years by the Germans. The French tried to recover it many times with 3 major attacks. The British came and tried to attack once. They were both beaten. Finally, the Canadians came along and won. A quote by General A.E. Ross. "In those few minutes, I saw the birth of a nation." We stopped by l'Anneau de Mémoire, or the Ring of Memory, that has 5,706 soldiers' names from 40 different nations written on it who died in No Pas de Calais. There are 500 panels with approximately 1,200 names on each. It's near Notre-Dame de Lorette that holds the remains of over 40,000 soldiers that died in the war and many concentration camp victims. We stopped by the Menin Gates lastly. It was opened in 1927 to commemorate the Commonwealth soldiers who fought and died in the Ypres salient, and whose graves are unknown. We then visited 4 war memorials and historical monuments. We started off with Bourlon Wood Memorial that commemorates the Canadian participation in World War I. The next is the Historial de la Grande Guerre that was near the Somme battlefields and tells you about the prisoners of the war and what normal life was like for the families. After that was the Thiepval Memorial for 72,246 soldiers who have no known grave between the years 1915 and 1918. Over the years, they have found and identified bodies and taken their names off the memorial and given them a proper burial. Lastly is Beaumont, Hamel, Newfoundland Memorial, which is 74 acres of preserved battlefield from the unsuccessful Newfoundland Regiment from July 1st, 1916. At the time, Newfoundland had a population of 240,000 and was not part of Canada until 1949. We then left our homestay families on April 12th to set out to Paris.
Sometimes it's important. Okay.
On the way, we stopped at many British, French, and Canadian cemeteries, which were all very lovely. We also toured Hms Cathedral, a Roman Catholic cathedral, the 19th largest in the world with 126 pillars, as well as Juno Beach Center.
On the memorial and spent some time in there, you would have seen on paper what's here. Just to orient you, the other beaches, Sword is over there, where we went yesterday. Juno's just down here. This is Gold.
Juno Beach was used June 6, 1944, and was named after its code name from Winston Churchill, Jelly, shortened from jellyfish. It was used as a port to get the boats in and the men on shore to fight. The next day, we looked at the Bayeux Tapestry, which is an embroidered cloth nearly 230 feet long that shows the events leading up to the Norman conquest of England. We visited the famous Versailles, a building surrounded by a small village on the outskirts of Paris. Now it's a thriving community of wealth and tourism. It is not only famous for being a beautiful building, but also as a symbol of absolute monarchy in the beginning of the French Revolution. It was originally constructed by Louis XIII in 1623.
They have an actual audience room too. Number 401.
Now every year, 8 to 10 million people walk in its extravagant gardens and halls. The last day we started off at l'Arc de Triomphe, a beautiful archway that honors those who fought and died in the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. It also holds the memorial for the unknown soldier and its forever burning flame. We then visited the Catacombs of Paris, which were used as underground ossuaries with the remains of more than 6 million people. Of course, we had to go see the Eiffel Tower, which was built in 1889 and designed by Gustave Eiffel for the International Exhibition of Paris. The tower was almost taken down in 1909, but was saved because of its antenna that was used for military purposes. It stands 324 meters up in the air. And weighs 7.3 million kilograms. We also walked around in the world's largest museum, viewing approximately 38,000 works of art in the Louvre. That night, we took photos of the Notre Dame, which is a medieval Catholic cathedral, and famous for being in Victor Hugo's novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It is one of the finest examples of French Gothic architecture ever. Overall, the trip was just amazing. I got a lot of great memories, got to see a bunch of beautiful places, got to learn a bunch of information, and got to make a bunch of new friends. I'm glad I got to see the world, and I hope you love this summary of my trip.